Yeah, so 42. So some countries try to achieve economic growth with less government participation. How can this be increased? Through what? Through increase what? For the three, sorry, 42. Yeah, increase in private investment, right? Increase in private investment is very much likely to cause economic growth without government intervention, right? So 43 now, which would not appear in the current account of the BOP, which would not appear in the current account of the BOP. 43, send me answer for 43. So you're saying B, the use of local banking services by a foreign company? No, that is just an export of a service or an import of a service, right? So A is out, B is out, there's a service. Dividends is net income, net NPIA, net property income from abroad or transfer income. D is the capital account though, right? So yeah, D, 43D, that goes in capital. 45, bargain supermarket increased the price of its name brand tissue by 65% and sales fell by 115. What is this telling us about the PD for bargain tissue? What is it? It's elastic, right? Correct. It's elastic because there was a bigger than proportionate change in the quantity supplied, right? Well, sorry, the quantity demanded. 65% change in price, 115 change in the sales or the quantity demanded. So we have 45 now. So yeah, we have these diagrams. Which diagram best describe the circular flow of income in an economy consisting of households, firms, and financial institutions? Which would you say? You should know always a circular flow of income. There's always firms and households. But which one incorporates the financial system? So you're saying probably three? Yes, Chanish, but that does not include one where with a financial institution. That is just the regular circular flow of income. Right? So any other guess, right? There should be a separate place showing the so I think that three should have been the ideal one with this investment and saving thing next to it. Because it can be two, because farms don't consume from households and households don't give income to farms. So it's not two. It's not D as well, because households don't invest and households don't give, both invest and give the saving to farms. So if this was the other way around, I might have flexed with it, but that is not it. And this one here, potentially, if there was an arrow showing households consume from farms, that could have worked, but there's no arrow here as well. You know, if there was an arrow somewhere like this here, right? Like that. And then it shows farms consume, farms invest like that. I would have said is the answer. Do you agree? Right? Because remember, the farms pay income to households. Households gonna save it, right? Households will then consume goods from the farms which they use for investment. So this should be it if it is labeled like that, right? Again, tree is just a basic model without the financial system, and they're asking for the financial system. So it can't be that. So the question is fundamentally flawed when you look at it like that, but I think something is missing, which would make A the answer, given what I just showed you there, right? So yeah, something is definitely missing. But given this correction I made, scratching out this, that would be right, right? So 46, the diagram best describes what? So we have low incomes result in no savings, no finance, results in no creation of wealth. What does this result in? What would you say? It looked like the poverty trap. Yes, it's exactly the poverty trap. The poverty trap is where you're making such measly income. You can't save, you can't invest, you can't create wealth. You can't buy a house to inherit, you can't buy properties, you can't buy stocks, you can't do a business, right? Which of the following is not characteristic of Caribbean economy? Which of the following is not a characteristic of Caribbean economies? So yeah, they are not major producers of goods, right? So 47, it is B. They're not major producer of manufactured goods, maybe with the exception of Trinidad and to some extent Jamaica. And Guyana is trying to get there, but all three of them are not really on some big grand scale, to, even if, right? So trade liberalization results in several benefits, which is not a benefit. This one comes a lot and it's very straightforward, right? Which is not a benefit. Price increases. That is never a benefit, right? So 49, we have there D. And I know classes might be, a lot of persons have exams tomorrow as well. We will still have classes. I know I can't, some persons need the time to prepare, but I still have to do my part and provide a service for whoever is there, right? I have to do my part. So even if it's a small turnout, we still come in and warn with the paper, right? So if you have the time, don't miss it. So that was 48. So 48 is D, 47 is D, 49 now, right? Which of the following situation result in a surplus? Which results in a surplus? So yeah, 50, it is C exports, sorry, 49C, exports greater than imports. 50, which of the following is most likely to occur if there's an increase in demand for cameras? So again, just a reminder, always, if you can't see it, do not feel you're too big to draw a diagram on the paper, to draw a diagram somewhere. When I wrote this exam, I will tell you straight, um, I drew diagrams, right? Right? So again, if there is an increase in the demand, look, price, I think there's wanted clean, but if they give you paper and you can work on it, work on that. But if you can't do anything, just write in it. If you erase it, you erase it. If you can't erase it, just draw on it. This is what you gotta do. You can't compromise your grade. I think you could draw on it, yeah. I draw on it. Um, so 51, it was way back there. So I don't know if it's changed for y'all, but it should give you a worksheet if anything. 51, what trend is common to all countries shown? Again, the table shows manufacturing output as a share of GDP. And each country, you notice a trend. Decrease here, decrease, decrease, decrease. So what option is correct? Is there a decline in GDP or is there a decline in manufacturing output as a share of GDP? Tell me. This one comes a lot. C, no. Not a decline in sale, right? Nothing to do with decline in sale, right? It's talking about GDP, what proportion of it is manufacturing. Maybe some other sector, such as the primary sector or the tertiary sector, has increased, resulting in these changes, right? So GDP didn't reduce, mind you, it is just that manufacturing output takes up a small proportion in each of these economies. 52, country X imported 20% more than it did in the previous year. This resulted in arrears in its BOP account. As a result, country X had to borrow from the IMF. In addition, the GDP declined because the currency had been devalued. The increase in X in imports depicted above resulted in what? What did it result in? '53, sorry, 52, yeah, it resulted in the consequences of a deficit because you import a lot, you end up in arrears, now gotta get money and what even, right? So 53, the restriction of international trade through tariff embargoes, quotas, and exchange rate is referred to as. So 53, all of these are examples of what? Protectionism. That's correct. 54, this globalization one comes a lot, and it's always C, the integration of financial services, technology, and commodity markets. Again, globalization is trying to become a single market on a global stage, which is driven by integration of these sorts. The treasury bond represents a what?
I don't know.
Yeah, which one does it represent? A loan to what? Yeah, it is a loan, but which type? Long, short, to the government, to the central bank? Who would you say? There's a trick question, want to fool you. And there's something I want you to know. Which one do you think is it? All right, again, bills are short term, notes medium term, bond is long term. So it got to be either the government or the central bank. Which one is it? Right, it's to the government, right? Again, you're loaning to the government and it is facilitated by the central bank, right? You're loaning to the government and it is facilitated by the central bank. The central bank is merely just linking the borrowers and whoever together, right? 56, the central bank um, calls for an increase in the RR of commercial banks. How will this affect the operation of commercial banks? Again, if they increase the reserve requirement, it means that more money has to be locked away in commercial bank vaults or central bank vaults. So what does this imply? 56, tell me. Their liquid assets will be reduced, right? Their liquid assets will be reduced. Right? Because more money is locked away, they get less assets to lend. 57, at which point is production most efficient? At which point is production most efficient? Right? Yeah, point R on any point on the PPC or the PPF is the most efficient point. 58, this comes a lot. Where's the equilibrium price? Is where demand and supply is equal, price of 12. So they're saying if supply increased by 300,000 kg, what would the new equilibrium price be? So they basically want to know if all of these supply increased by 300,000, what would the new equilibrium supply be? And again, this here would be now 400. This is now 500. The second one, this is now 600, right? And again, it would be 500 here, 500 there. The new equilibrium price would be 8, right? In case you didn't fully get it, there is how come we can get 8. If supply increased by 300,000, right? And 60, large firms achieve saving in unit costs, right? So this was C. This is 8, which is A. Right? What is 60? Large firms achieve saving in unit costs from advertising because they advertise a lot. What type of economies of scale is this? Right? Marketing, right? Marketing, that's correct. So tell me how much you got out of how much we mark. $50 out of 60. 55. Let me end recording here before I continue.